Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Groovy.
Alrighty, welcome back to Box Office Pulp, ladies and gentlemen. In case you'd forgotten, we're your one-stop podcast for movies, madness, and moxie. I'm your host, Flexo, and tonight we're taking a look at Nicholas Winding Refn's Drive. I'm impressed because I managed to say his name without sounding dumb, unless it's not pronounced that way, in which case, damn.
If I drive for you, you give me a time and a place. I give you a 5-minute window. Anything happens in that 5 minutes and I'm yours. I don't sit in while you're running it down. I don't carry a gun. I drive.
So you just moved to LA?
No, I've been here for a while.
What do?
I drive for movies.
Is that dangerous?
It's only part-time.
You put this kid behind the wheel. There's nothing he can't do. Kid, I want you to meet Mr. Bernie Rose.
My hands are a little dirty.
So am I.
My husband is coming home.
Where is he?
He's in prison.
There's some guys that want me to do a job for them, and I'm not gonna do it.
What's the job? When you get your money, his debt's paid. You never go near his family again. Whose money do I have?
Anybody finds out we're both dead.
That's why this driver's gotta go, Bernie. He's gotta go.
Joining me is James Lewis. A lot of guys mess around with married women, but he's the only one I know who robs a joint just to pay back the husband. Say hello, James.
Look, I told you had me for 5 minutes. For those 5 minutes, I'm yours. Outside of that, I can also be yours. But I won't necessarily like it. But I'm flexible.
I hate you because you actually just ruined my next up. So next up, you give him a time and a place. He gives you a 5-minute window. Anything happens in that 5 minutes, and he's yours, no matter what. Anything happens a minute either side of that, and you're on your own, without our second co-host, MB. Say hello, MB. That is a really good Ryan Gosling impression.
I was gonna say that was my intro into the actual podcast.
He's just looking emotionally,
just staring longingly.
He just smiles a little bit.
A hint of a smirk. All right, and lastly, he wouldn't be able to find pussy in a whorehouse, Mr. Mike Napier.
Pussy mobile.
That's all you need to say.
Good night, everybody.
Also,
go home.
Mike needs to have like an insanely huge grin when he says it.
Like, none of us can grin like Ron Perlman. That man's face is bigger than my entire body.
The mile-wide grin.
Also, he needs to own a pizzeria as he says it.
Oh, man, Nino's would be the greatest. So we were talking about this before, ladies and gentlemen at home, and we've decided that every DVD should have a function where you can just skip to Ron Perlman scenes. Like, it's a
like
special
the jump
feature.
to a nightmare scene in Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
I mean, Nightmare on Elm Street.
And, I mean, I'm telling you this because I want you listening to this, to go out and find your congressman and write petitions, because this should be a thing.
I mean, it would say, like, play movie, then underneath that it would be play Ron Perlman.
Just
Actually,
imagine...
it should be play Ron Perlman, then play movie. Like, the default setting is play Ron Perlman.
Movies he's not even in.
How much money movie companies would make if they re-release all their DVDs with special Ron Perlman editions. Like, he could do, like, The Wizard of Oz and just, like, be doing an introduction to the film.
It's a steel book.
Could you imagine Ron Perlman sitting down talking passionately about The Wizard of Oz? He's wearing a Hawaiian shirt, just sitting there on a stool, talking to camera.
Oh, man.
He just looks up at one point, reminiscing.
I'd watch the hell out of that.
That sounds like the most beautiful thing ever.
I have heard him talk passionately about Red River.
Well, all right. Before we spend too many hours talking about Ron Perlman getting lost and imagining his eyes, let's jump back to Drive, which does, coincidentally, feature Ron Perlman. See, that's a segue.
We didn't bring it up for no reason.
Yeah, well, I probably did.
Can't forget his genitals. They're in there.
Spoilers.
Spoilers. Drive dies.
No.
No.
There, I made the joke.
Thank you. Every podcast has to have
Did I hear a
it's in the
car?
contract.
Did I hear Our cars start up in the background whenever you say
I thought I heard that too.
I thought that was awesome.
Oh no, it's Drive. He's found us.
You look out your window, Gosling's just
Staring at you in that rubber mask.
staring at you in his car.
Like, where's that music
Mouthing
coming
the
from?
words to Real Hero.
Where's that beautiful music coming from?
Our special co-host, a car.
Anyway.
So before Ryan Gosling kills us for slandering his film, let's talk about why we picked this film to discuss. Mike, I'm going to save you for last because I'm just terrified that you have like a 3-volume opus of Ryan Gosling facts written down somewhere you're going to read to us.
I don't.
Okay, that's reassuring. Thank you. So,
I do.
Damn.
Yeah, MB's the one who do that.
Oh, that's right.
I just
All right. But, I mean, why did you guys pick Drive? Why is this one of your favorites? And I think I can comfortably say that we all really enjoy the film. No, everyone hates it.
Well, who's going to go first?
Hero.
Ah.
Oh.
What I really enjoy about the movie is just how it's able to capture the spirit of old noir Steve McQueen type movies from the 70s and 80s without ever feeling like it's too much of a pastiche, which I think is a trap that a lot of movies like this fall into.
Yeah, it has like a balancing act to it that is really integral in making everything work because it has its own story and its own narrative, but at the same time it pays homage to so many different eras of film, which is kind of rare, actually, when you think about it, to see in modern filmmaking.
Yeah, you can kind of enjoy it on two completely separate levels.
I was going to say the third level would just be actually watching it for Ryan Gosling's face.
Well, that's what we always do.
Right, but you said
I
only
thought that-
2 ways to watch, so I was confused.
I thought that was like the first way to watch it.
Oh,
Okay, there are 4 ways to watch it.
okay.
As a noir pastiche,
All right, there's 1.
as a neo-noir,
That's 2.
Ryan Gosling's face,
Yep,
Christina Hendricks.
You forgot Ron Perlman.
And
5
Ron
ways.
Yeah.
Perlman, 5. There are 5. and Bryan
Bryan
Cranston,
Cranston.
6. Albert Brooks. Albert Brooks is actually 3 levels. I don't even understand that.
It's
I
Albert
know that's
without
fair.
eyebrows too, so that's like a whole other thing.
Yeah. And it's serious mobster Albert Brooks, so.
Damn. All right, so there's 7.
Hollywood Brooks.
There are just 7 ways to watch this film.
Honestly, like, the reason I really wanted to do an episode on this, too, was that, to me, like, it's quite simply, like, and I don't feel like this is subterfuge or anything, it's quite simply a modern masterpiece. Like, it's like a modern noir slashed with a 70s revenge film or a vigilante movie slashed with an indie thriller from the 90s combined into a heist movie, an 80s actioner, and an insanely realistic love story. Like, if none of that sold you, then you're either dead, dumb, or both.
That's subterfuge, MB.
Ooh.
So you're that
Also,
chick
I
who
agree.
sued the filmmakers for it not being Fast and the Furious.
Yeah.
I think that
Also,
explains itself.
Also, Ron Perlman gets to say fine-ass pussymobile while playing a Jewish mobster who owns a pizza.
It's fantastic. It really is.
He's like Hellboy. He dwells in 2 worlds. He must make a choice.
This is actually a prequel to Hellboy.
But I think one of the reasons I really enjoy it is just for how straightforward it all feels. Like, there's not a bunch of needless twists and turns. The movie knows what it's going after and simply does it very efficiently and effectively. So the whole thing feels tight, but well-developed and well thought out, which I definitely appreciate. It's just high-caliber filmmaking all around.
Yeah, for such a stylistic movie, its storytelling is very zero bullshit.
Yeah. And it's fairly straightforward at the same time. Like, you could almost say there's not a lot going on, but that's just because of how well it's fleshed out and well it flows. It's almost like it starts out like a day in the life type of thing, but the plot just slowly starts to unravel and make itself known, like, the moment that things start to go wrong for them.
And it's really amazing, too, because they managed to communicate all of this with a minimal of dialogue.
Yeah, like, Ryan Gosling has, like, 5 lines in the first 30 minutes of the movie.
Like Conan the Barbarian.
Yes,
He
Ryan
does all of his
Gosling
acting
is
through those
Conan the
lips.
Barbarian in this. With a scorpion jacket.
We're going to do an entire segment on this show about the Scorpion jacket.
We'll get to that.
Actually.
We'll get to that. We all know it. But I guess while we're on the dialogue, I was watching it the other day and I was just kind of thinking how effective that opening scene is of the driver driving, and how he doesn't say a single word throughout the whole thing, but you get the tension, you get what he's doing, what his thought process, and everything is communicated so perfectly without him having to explain it to the guys in the back or anything like that. And it's kind of like the anti-Tarantino film. Like a Tarantino film sets up these huge dialogue scenes that drive tension and explain what's going to happen and all that. Whereas with Drive, it's all done completely with a lack of dialogue setting up the same thing. So it's really impressive how you can have both ends of the spectrum be so effective at communicating tension.
Yeah, I was actually thinking the same thing when I was watching the opening today. It's just like, it's understated, but at the same time, it's understated with kind of a brilliant twist in that it's unlike any like real chase scene you've ever seen. It's not even really a chase scene more than it's just him doing what he does best, and you never get the sense that he's messed up or anything like that. Like, he has complete control of the situation from start to finish, even though there is a lot of tension.
And the ending, like, it's so clever that he ends up in the baseball lot, and, you know, he's got the cap and everything. It's so well planned, but the film doesn't rub your nose in it.
No.
Yeah, it's established very subtly.
Yeah, well, the entire movie just established itself very subtly as it peels back everything. And it's like the opening's like this kind of condensed version of that.
Yeah,
It's like...
Go on.
No, I forgot what I was going to say.
Okay.
Oh, it's amazing how it's essentially just a guy driving casually, and yet you are on the edge of your seat.
And the cool thing is that I like about it is the camera never leaves the inside of the car.
It's like dashboard porn.
Yeah, you're just right there.
Which might not mean a lot to you guys, but for Mike and I, we're very passionate about dashboards being filmed at night. It's kind of a thing with us.
They're experts on it.
We've talked about it.
But I thought it was impressive, too, because the camera pans back to the guys who have robbed whatever, and they take off their masks, but they keep them in the dark the entire time. So even though they're showing you their faces, you never get a great glimpse of these guys. And it seems like it's almost tapping into how the driver feels about the situation. He's only there as a job and to drive. He doesn't give a fuck about the guys in the car.
Yeah, and it's also like, if it were a lesser movie, like, it would have had those guys dictating the entire thing and trying to cause tension themselves, like arguing with the driver or whatever.
I'm just thinking of The Dark Knight with the cop in the police caravan.
That is not good.
Oh,
That's
no.
not good.
Could you imagine that guy in this film?
Drive, Gosling, drive!
He said the title.
Just throws the carrot keys at him. Get Christina Hendricks out of here!
But I mean, the subtlety like works in a number of ways. Not just the tension or even the driving portions of it, like the love story that goes on. Like, very little is said within that story itself, but it works so well.
And their relationship thing can be pretty much just summed up in 4 elevator scenes.
Yeah.
Which is amazing how that can be tracked.
It does a good job of never really feeling quite like a love story, more just like a human relationship.
Yeah. Like, it's not the Hollywood, you know, they fall in love type of thing. It's like he essentially lives next door to her. They trade a few glances. He offers to, you know, drive them home one day, I think. And then it just kind of folds out of there and you buy it. That's the thing. It's like you don't at all think it's like too little. Like, nothing about this film is too little. It's the perfect amount.
I think it's simple, but it's not underbaked. Like, it's very direct and you understand exactly what they're trying to get at. So you can understand it and you can appreciate it.
And a lot of it is also the performances. Like, Ryan Gosling does so little, but he does so much at the same time.
Well, I think all the actors really nail their roles. And I think that's one of the greatest parts of the film is that Refn basically let the actors flesh out their roles and expand them and take a kind of simple story and make it into something much bigger.
Yeah, actually, if you go back to, like, when Gosling was being cast, like, he told this story one time of Nicholas Winding Refn coming up to him and not even really knowing what the film was yet, but just kind of being inspired by the way that Gosling carried himself, and like there was at one point, Nicholas Winding Refn is kind of a weird guy, so
he's
dangerous. Are you going to tell this story? Please do.
Yeah, you're thinking of the same one.
Yeah.
Secrets don't make friends, guys. Come on.
So excited.
But Ryan Gosling came to the meeting for this film at I think it was like a coffee shop or something.
Yeah.
And Nicholas Winding Refn was there, but he's kind of an aloof guy. He has kind of a strange personality, so he showed up without having been driven there, and he wouldn't say a word to Gosling the entire time. He would actually look away from him. And it was kind of getting on Gosling's nerves, so at some point he was like, well, if this is how you're going to treat me, I'm just going to go home. And Nicholas Winding Refn just kind of turns to him and says, wait, I need a ride back, and I don't have a license. And and Gosling is just, so annoyed with it that he's like, all right, get in the car. I'll drive you to whatever it was, like Sunset and Boulevard or something like that. So Gosling's driving him, and the two are just silent the entire time because it's such an awkward interview for what was supposed to be this big role that he doesn't even really know the script for at that point. So Gosling just decides to turn on the radio, and there's this pop song or something like that, or some, I forget what exactly the music was for it, but he looks over at Nicholas Winding Refn and the guy's crying. He's just in tears, and Gosling doesn't know why, and Nicholas Winding Refn just says, that's the movie. That's the movie that we're trying to make. Just a guy who drives.
No, I believe he specifically said, that's our movie. This is our movie. Just a guy driving.
It wasn't even going to be Drive. He'd never heard of the book. It was going to be a fantasy movie.
It was just such a strange way for this film to come about, but it just goes to show how much of it was really come up with on the spot in terms of letting the actors develop their characters and letting the screenplay really form out of the experience of making it.
Yeah.
I do like that before Refn says, this is the movie, that's a terrifying story. He's just driving this strange foreign man to an unknown location. He just starts crying.
That's why MB and I are obsessed with it.
If you go on YouTube and search for Ryan Gosling on Conan, I think you can actually find the story, but it's just so weird.
I think Refn gives his side of that, I think, on the special features of the Blu-ray, and I think his defense was he had a really bad stomach flu or something at the time, so he was just not even fully aware of his surroundings.
So he just felt like being psychotic.
I guess, yeah.
It's
That's
like
what
James
happens when I
Cameron
have
in
the
the
flu.
Terminator.
And now Ryan Gosling's making a second movie with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to know what the inspiration for Only God Forgives was.
They're in a Chinese restaurant.
He just saw Gosling singing karaoke and was like, this is the movie!
He's got his chopsticks, but all of a sudden you see Nicholas Winding Refn's tears go down in the chop suey.
Oh God, not again.
This is our movie. Just eating food.
Another fine mess you've gotten us into, Refn.
Ryan Gosling is foodie.
Every time Gosling just wants to star in a movie, he just decides to call Refn up and just makes plans with him, because eventually, at some point in the evening, Refn's going to come up with a movie idea.
It's just two guys at a movie theater.
While weeping.
There's bowling, suddenly he just starts crying, eating his french fry. This is what our movie should be.
And that was how The Big Lebowski came about.
Ultimately culminates in their biopic, Gosling and Me.
Reference played by a midget.
But
so Drive.
I think another good example of an actor expanding his role, on the Blu-ray they were talking about how they cast Ron Perlman, and they didn't think Perlman would take it because it's such a small role. It was even smaller in the original draft, and Perlman said, this is perfect because I've always associated myself, I've always wanted to be, the Jewish boy who becomes a Italian gangster. That's my dream.
Oddly specific.
That was an aspiration of Ron Perlman.
Yeah, he could identify. He could. He's a weeping. But he said he could identify with that, and it kind of became a thing that developed in the character. I mean, you see it, he's got like a pizzeria, and he always wants to be, you know, one of the regular Italian gang member kind of guys, and he's always an outsider. So he's a small character, but there's a lot going on with it.
Yeah, it's a very fascinating aspect of the movie.
It's also really interesting because Ron Perlman's character is actually really important because he kicks off everything in the plot, more or less. Very little screen time, especially compared to Al Brooks.
Like, really, you can almost consider Ron Perlman's part a cameo. Up until, like, the scene where, you know, spoilers, he's taken and drowned.
Drive knocks him off a cliff with his car and then drowns him.
So we're just going to call him Drive, fair enough.
They call him Driver in the synopsis. Why not call him Drive?
Just shorten it. Not going to fucking pronounce that R.
Look, that's a lot of
shit.
We put an apostrophe after the E.
His character in Only God Forgives is called Forgives.
No, he's God. That's the plot twist at the end.
Oh.
He's only.
I'm still convinced Only God Forgives the Japan story for Driver.
I was watching like the full trailer for that yesterday, and more so now than I did before.
Still kind of feels like the prequel to Drive and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not
like
driving.
This is the secret origin.
I'm not driving.
That it is the prequel because he's just going to end the movie with him getting into his car and driving into the ocean.
He puts on his scorpion jacket.
In Los Angeles.
He's just suddenly wearing the jacket. You wouldn't get that jacket in Japan, by the way. Think about it.
He buys it from a young Mexican boy.
I think also like someone who kind of gets lost in the shuffle as far as the cast goes is Carey Mulligan, who I would say does a really good job of really humanizing her role too. Like it's not the typical damsel in distress, or it's not the typical, you know, love interest for a movie. It's just she's a woman, a single mother in Los Angeles just trying to find her way, and they happen to meet, and it's just incredibly humanistic. This is what they mean when they're talking about realism. Not the perceived realism of like something like a Hollywood blockbuster, but this is more so like a human tale. And those two have a chemistry that really sell it.
Well, that's one of the best things about the film. You can rewatch it and each time pay attention to a different character and just watch for them. And you're going to get a full story and motivations and arc, and maybe not an arc, but you're going to get so much for each character. There's so much going on with each one. You know, the last time I watched it, I was paying attention to what Al Brooks is doing. And it's interesting how he uses violence in the film. Like with Shannon, he just slices his arm and he's got that moment where he's telling him to calm down and it's all over. And it's violent but fairly gentle compared to the other murders. Compared to taking a fork and stabbing in a guy's eye and then stabbing him in the throat several times with a knife. Or even the driver where he takes out the razor and tries to stab him in the guts. So just like the way he reacts with characters, like he likes Shannon, so he tries to put him down gentle, and he's pissed off by the driver, so he has that violent attack, and he's really mad at the diner, so he just beats the shit out of that guy.
How else would you kill Bryan Cranston, though? I mean, look at that face.
I'm sorry, Cranston. Just raises your shotgun. I don't want to do this.
And Bryan Cranston's character himself is a really interesting addition, because it's almost like he's the driver's Alfred, or something. Like he's his mentor, but at the same time, it's like he kind of just supplies the cars. And
I love the character of Shannon.
Well, the way he interacts with the other characters is great too, because, you know, he just hates Ron Perlman's character. And you can tell every time they discuss something, he just has a look on his face like he wants him to eat shit and die. Whereas when he's talking, you know, to Al Brooks, he genuinely wants to make that guy happy. Like, he'll do whatever to make him happy.
It's almost like he's afraid of that character.
My favorite bits is like when he's just talking up Driver to Carey Mulligan's character.
You mean Drive?
Yeah.
Yes, when he's talking up Drive.
Okay, I was confused.
He's talking up Driv.
I was confused which character we were talking about.
Drive.
He was talking about D.
He's talking about
Mystery Racer D?
I think that's an actual anime.
Anyway, Mike, you had a point.
I did?
What?
I just love Shannon's character, like, the way he, you know, talks up Drive. And how they have, like, it's the only, like, there's a sense of rapport there you get between the two that you only see a few small glimpses of. And the most he actually talks to Shannon is actually in the scene where he's threatening to kill him, but before calming down. But just, like, these little bits and pieces throughout. And Shannon's just like such a almost pathetic kind of just loser, really, who means well, but is.
But he's so likable too.
Well, he's the kind of guy who would say anything to please a person, So you kind of get that sniveling side of him.
Yeah.
But you still like the guy.
Yeah, he's kind of got like almost a fatherly quality to him when he talks to the driver. But like Mike was saying, it's like the driver doesn't even really talk back to him. He just, like in the scene where they're on the job and the driver is, he's got a stunt gig that he's about to do, and Bryan Cranston's character Shannon asks, if this is all right, and all the driver does is really nod and smile.
He gives a thumbs up in there too.
Like, the Gosling thumbs up.
Like all around, the movie's really well done in that aspect, and as to where it just handles so little with such importance.
Yeah, Ruffin and the actors really know how to boil everything down with just a look, or if you can just get away with just saying one word to get an entire point across. It comes down to the acting and where Ruffin even just puts the camera. Like if he has the camera low, he can get a certain kind of mood, and
it's like that shot of him carrying Carey Mulligan's character. I think her name's Irene.
Yeah, Irene.
Yeah. That shot of him carrying her son because her son's falling asleep. That really just boils up their entire relationship, like the entire reason that she takes an interest in him, which is just so genius, I think.
Yeah, every shot in this movie is like a painting.
It is. Well, my favorite is the strip club scene, because it's just so surreal looking. And it's so different from the rest of the movie. It almost doesn't seem real.
Well, my favorite is the panning shot from the opening where they're in a hotel room, essentially, and it just pans over to him watching the city from the other side of a window. And he does this several times in the movie, but all he does is like simply explain what he does, and it just focuses on that scorpion jacket.
You get so much You get so much information in that opening shot too. Like they start, you see the game on the TV, you see the map where he has several different routes all mapped out, like X's through them to show where to stop and where to go. And
I mean, he honestly is almost like the Batman of stunt driving.
He's got a superhero costume.
That's what I was going to say. That opening shot just does such a great job of setting him up almost like a superhero.
Well, that's
the way Ruffin shoots Gosling.
Well, that's what Gosling actually said one time when a reporter asked him whether or not he'd like to tackle a comic book role, and Gosling said, essentially, I've already played a comic book role. Like, the reason that the scorpion jacket is in there is because I imagine, like, the driver from Drive essentially imagined himself, like, putting on a superhero costume when he goes to work.
Yeah, didn't that also go back to why he puts on the rubber face when he's outside Nino's?
I assume.
Yeah.
So.
Like, that was part of his
also,
alter ego. Like, that was him, in his mind, kind of becoming Clark Kent to Superman.
Yeah.
Everybody has, different meanings behind the mask. I like how it's never been even remotely... It's not even... You can't even pick up anything in the movie to explain why he puts on the mask.
He's just there wearing the mask.
Except for, the intent of the scenes, which is very much... I'm sure we'll get into this more later, but it's very much almost like Nicholas Winding Refn's attempt at Halloween.
Yeah. It does seem like the driver's trying to, he's enjoying it. Enjoying the intimidation.
This is pretty goddamn terrifying.
It is. That's a fucking terrifying mask.
I wouldn't want that guy looking at me.
With his mouth agape.
I think it's a Jason Statham mask.
That's what I always assumed.
But before we go too far away from this, to go back to Shannon for just a second. How fascinating is the relationship between Shannon, Bernie, and Nino? Yeah, but you just get a very brief glimpse into their backstory and how they all met, and it's both fascinating and perverse.
Well, it's such a great moment when...
You kicked my best friend's ass, but I like the cut of your jib. Let's hang out.
It is a really great scene when Nino sits down and he tells Shannon to go take a hike. And he's like, I'm just fucking with you. How's the leg? And all that in, 2 lines or whatever. Just fantastic because it shows so much about these characters.
And that's where he has the grin.
The mile-wide grin.
I didn't even find out about how the leg got that way till, 15 minutes later.
Yeah. It's when they had the car.
It just says so much about Albert Brooks and Bryan Cranston's characters, that they would still be friends after that.
Or even the relationship between Albert Brooks and Ron Perlman. Because it doesn't seem like they're really that great of friends, but they go to all their meetings together, stuff that's not even business related together. I mean, there's got to be some tight bond there that we don't really see so much, but you get stuff like Al Brooks calling Ron Perlman a belligerent asshole.
It's like they both hate each other, but also want to be each other.
It's like at one point they had this back and forth where it's like, Albert Brooks' character says, why does a Jew own a pizza shop? It's like there's a camaraderie there, but it's like it's almost tense. Like it's not like they're best buds or anything.
Yeah.
They have a word for that, MB. Frenemies.
They're frenemies. That's it. We've uncovered the secret of the film.
End.
Credits.
That should be how we end these podcasts from now on.
Somewhere Nicholas Winding Refn is weeping because we've discovered the meaning of Drive.
That's what the movie will be about. People figuring out my secrets.
The buried secret of Nicholas Winding Refn.
The Da Vinci Code, Part 3.
We found out that his name is just an anagram for something.
Drive. If you take the letters and mix them around, it spells drive.
Aha!
Does that count? Shut up.
Chinese secret, eh? One particular thing that happened in the movie that made me, go, well, I'm just going to fall in love with this movie by the time it's over, was when Irene's husband shows back up. And there's no Hollywood bullshit.
No.
He's played as a guy who's embarrassed by what he did. He recognizes that obviously an affair went on, but he's in no real place to say anything about it, and isn't.
Well, there's a subtle animosity going on between them, where he's trying to be friendly, but you can tell, not the most comfortable in the situation. He's not happy Drive is still around, but he appreciates the help that guy gave his family, so...
Using it in such a casual context. Oh yeah, drive.
Now I'm just imagining that guy being like, I'm not comfortable with you around, Drive. I understand that Irene had needs she needed fulfilled while I was in prison.
His name is Standard, come on.
A great name. I wish my name was Standard.
Where's the deluxe model? Ooh, stealing lines from the movie.
So they made that... They made his character's name Standard just to make that joke, right?
I bet that's how that worked, really. Because who names their child Standard?
Well, Nick Refn was in his car. He saw the Standard shift. This is the movie!
Just cry. He crashed his car into a school bus.
Wait, I thought he said he doesn't drive. Now I'm confused.
He stole the car.
That's why he doesn't drive.
That's why he doesn't have a license.
Taken away.
Drive, save me, I've crashed.
I just love how this film was essentially made by an insane lunatic.
He was listening to an Albert Brooks comedy album at the same time. It all comes together.
But he wasn't
daydreaming about Gosling. You would.
We all would.
Doing it right now.
Oh, that Gosling.
But anyway, back to the actual discussion before we start laughing about Flexo saying drive.
It's not the end.
It's a very interesting dynamic between him and Standard, where obviously him being back in the picture kind of dampens things between him and Irene, but at the same time, he's still so attached that when Standard actually comes into a little bit of trouble, it doesn't take him 2 seconds to offer his help, really. Because he's out to help the family. He's not really out to help Standard himself, but...
Well, I was kind of thinking about that, because the movie makes a point to kind of boil things down to a parable, where it's really basic and characters almost fall into archetypes. You're the scorpion and you're, whatever the hell, carted the scorpion across the river. Turtle? Frog? Anyone remember?
Frog.
It was a frog.
Of course, frogs and scorpions, best bros on the river. But there's that moment where...
Best bros.
I like that you asked that question. Silence filled only by frogs.
Over here, bud.
I thought it was a joke.
No, I honestly couldn't remember. I was going to make a point of it, and I spaced it out. But there's also the scene where Drive is sitting on the couch with Benicio, and they're watching TV, and Drive asks him, hey, is that a good guy or a bad guy? And again, there are examples of characters being boiled down to, well, he's good, or he's bad, or this gangster tried to kill me because that's his nature. Yet with Drive himself, do you get the sense that he's doing stuff just because he wants to be a hero, or is it more self-motivated where he's just so in love with Irene that he'll do anything to try and get her for himself? And it's that gray area where the character's kind of muddled, where you can't tell if he is a hero or maybe a bad guy who happens to be doing stuff to bad people, so it's okay-ish.
I think that really when Irene entered his life, his priorities kind of changed, because at the beginning of the film, he just kind of seems to be in it for the sake of it. Like, he's in his line of profession because he has the skills that can really just kind of get him the money.
And it doesn't even really do anything for him. Like, you see with the heist stuff, it's effortless. He gets his, expression never changes. With the stunt work, he just does it.
Yeah, same deal with the stunt work, definitely.
Like, plus when he comes back home, it's like there's no real, like, all he does is really just put his bag on the bed, and then it cuts to, like, the opening credits. Like, there's nothing remotely about that seemed satisfying or even rewarding. It was just, he has the skills, he's just going to do that because that's what he feels like he's probably meant to do. And then when Irene enters his life, it's like everything revolves around helping her.
Yeah, and he can be more. Like, he can actually...
It's almost like he's trying to find his own humanity.
Yeah, he can escape himself.
Like he's trying to be a real human being, after all. No, that's actually a point I believe very firmly. Yeah. I think all of the songs in here, I think, really are just taking the place of dialogue, where if you read the lyrics, they're more or less trying to say part of the story or what that character is experiencing. They're not just in there for, sounding good.
I love the idea of an art film where there's a song in the middle of it. It's like the main theme of the movie that's that on the nose. And he completely gets away with it.
Or like Drive when he's in his apartment working on that engine trying to ignore the party next door, and the lyrics are, I don't eat, I don't sleep, I do nothing but think of you.
It's so amazing.
Yeah, the music in this film is just, that's a beast all of itself. It's kind of incredible the soundtrack that he managed to assemble for this.
I like how the movies with the music and type of character Driver is, that it's like this amalgamation of like it could, if it wasn't for like a cell phone showing up, you would think it took place in the 80s.
Yeah.
And then there's like a 70s type character as the main character, and then
like I was saying before, it's like it's a bunch of things melded into one.
Well, to be fair, there is a scene where somebody hangs up a cell phone and it has a dial tone at the end, so even the technology's an amalgam.
Nicholas Winding Refn is holding a cordless phone. That's the movie.
Stop calling me at 3 in the morning.
From antennas.
Is it Nick? Is it the movie?
Gosling never gets an hour of sleep. He just keeps being called by Nicholas Winding Refn.
Please stop.
I have another idea.
I'll do your movie. Just leave me alone.
You want to fight? Oh, this should be the movie.
But to backtrack a little bit here, to go back to the hero's Drive's motivation, do you guys have a sense that he's really enjoying the amount of violence he's inflicting? Like, he just needed an excuse to kind of let off some of the violence that's just bubbling underneath? Because it seems like the elevator stop moment, he's just really letting that guy have it. Like, he goes way overboard.
Well, the elevator... Yeah. I'm sure we'll talk about, like, just the elevator scene at some point, but, like, the stop was, like... I mean, that is his true nature just completely coming out. So it was, like, a lot of... Before that, he pretty much just asked Irene to run away with him, to take this money and run away with him. And obviously it wasn't going to happen. And he says it almost like he's a child whenever he's saying it, too. Like, almost looking at his feet, just like, I was kind of wondering, and I thought you could. And then it's just taking all the frustration out of everything that he thought he had for a moment. That all just got completely sucked away.
Yeah.
Just stopping this guy's...
Not only that, but he seems to have, like, a very simple, basic view of the world itself. Even beyond that, in that, like, in the same scene, like, he admitted, like, he was responsible for Standard dying, essentially, or being killed, and, he doesn't really, it doesn't seem like he expects any sort of, like, reaction to that. He was just saying it very matter-of-factly.
Yeah.
Like, he just kind of has a blank expression on his face.
Yeah, and there's also the scene where he's on the phone with Nino, and Nino even comments, like, you're pretty bad at all this stuff, aren't you? Like, he's not experienced with crime, even though he has regular dealings with gangsters. This is just a very naive, kind of younger viewpoint on life, I guess, or simplistic.
Yeah,
viewpoint.
there's like points in the movie where you get the driver is just naive to things, but experienced at the same time. Like he's
got the skills. He doesn't really have the mind for it.
Yeah, like he's more of a muscle.
He has the skills, but not the knowledge on how to pay the bills. Sorry, yeah, that one's not coming out again.
Don't inspire riffing again.
That's the movie. Bad joke. And then he makes funny people.
Too soon.
Wow. I do think when he's going after Nino is when he's this is what I am, and he's just kind of relishing it.
It's kind of like it's almost like a breakdown because he's very much an introvert. It seems like, but then like once he realizes that he's pretty much lost everything, it's like. Then he's allowed to be everything he is under the surface, and what is under there is not necessarily good or bad. It's just what he is.
Yeah, there's a very, very violent, slightly disturbed kind of person that he is underneath. That he's kind of hiding and getting away from, which is kind of great because you start the movie like he's a romantic loner.
Yeah,
and then suddenly he's stomping someone's skeleton.
Do you get the impression that maybe the driver doesn't really know what kind of guy he is, and throughout the movie he's just trying on different identities? Yeah, like at the beginning he's very much, I am the silent guy who does a job and doesn't ask questions. But when he meets Irene, he's like, well, I am the guy who's going to do the one last job for the woman he loves. By the time he kills Nino, he's like, I'm the killer now. Right down to putting on the Michael Myers mask.
I think maybe a little bit. I think he's kind of just at this point he's kind of repressing himself, and he's a bit of a blank slate when Irene shows up.
Yeah,
and
it's not so much that maybe he doesn't know what he is; it's just that he knows he's nothing.
Almost. Yeah, he doesn't.
Like he's really just got nothing to him except his ability to drive.
That's profound, MB. He knows that he is nothing. Gosling looked into the abyss, and what he saw was Gosling.
Nicholas Running Refn looks at a blank piece of paper. That's the movie.
He just shows it to Gosling. You are this.
Oh, Nick. Oh, Nick.
But building on Hero's point, I always thought the toothpick was kind of an interesting little touch. It definitely feels almost like a Clint Eastwood type touch, the strong, silent protagonist with a toothpick or a match in his mouth at all times. And he offers one to the kid, like, hey, this is cool, you want to be cool? Take one of these.
Yeah, I think he very much views himself as one of those kind of guys.
Yeah, well, isn't that what Gosling said when he was trying to figure out how to play the character? Because he said it was, he saw him as a guy who's watched too many movies, and at certain points, kind of person he is, the lines in his mind start to blur, and he becomes like this amalgamation of...
Like, he loses his own identity, and all he really has is that stuff to go off of.
Yeah.
Now, it plays into the naivete a lot, because he does really expect everything to be like a movie.
Or even the fact his character doesn't have a real name. He's kind of that blank slate.
It's almost like you figure that maybe in his childhood, like, some traumatic event led to him not really maturing as a person. Almost.
Drive's father was run over by a car.
Oh, no. You've got to stop calling him Drive.
No, that's his name now.
God damn it is distracting. I'm not doing that anymore.
Maybe you should join in the party
now.
Your friend, D.
But it's like, let's talk about the elevator scene.
Okay, well, you start us off, because I believe you probably have a thing or two to say. You seem interested in the elevator scene.
Well, it's like the most famous scene in the movie.
That's very true.
The way Ref shot it with, I love how the lights fade, goes into slow motion.
Yeah.
Very dreamlike, where he just essentially he sees the gun, he knows what he's about to do, he knows she's gonna see him for what he really is.
And he immediately, starts shielding her.
Yeah. He pushes her away, goes in, kisses her goodbye, essentially.
And that's their only kiss in the movie.
And then, the scene just immediately just ramps up, the light comes back on, slams this guy's head in, and just starts... A lot of people, I think, said the scene was like, a little over the top with how gruesome it was.
There's really good sound effect works. Like, you can really hear those brains squish.
Yeah, but I think it really had a point with the way it does go on too long. Like, he does...
Yeah, definitely,
not like a movie hero guy who's like stomps this guy dead or something. He just keeps going and going and going. You see her back up and just watch as just silent, just this smacking of his foot. And, elevator doors open, she backs up. And you see Driver. I mean, first you see the scorpion on the jacket, of course. That's established in the scene twice. And he just turns around and looks at her. Like a 5-year-old who's just spilled milk. Like, distraught, sad, and...
He knows there's no going back after that.
Yeah, that's it. And he just doesn't want this to happen. And
also, a part of his violent outburst is, I think, really, he was protecting his own, almost. Like, he felt like it was a personal attack to go after Irene. Like, that's why he goes even harsher with it, because, like, it's almost like someone was coming into his own home, really, because that's a part of his world, and he has a very limited world around him. So any part of that that's threatened is really just kind of, it brings out that darker side of him.
Yeah. And if you see throughout the movie, Driver is he has everything kind of in its place. Like, his jacket is always zipped up to a very specific point. His hair is always perfect.
Well, that's just Gosling.
Yeah, he always stands very straight up. But in this scene, like, his jacket's disheveled, his, collar's, like, all fucked up. His hair's all screwed.
There's something wrong. His collar's all fucked up.
Well, I mean, it's...
The canary in the coal mine. Every time you see Ryan Gosling in the street, look, how is his collar? It's fine. It's okay to reproach him. It's all fucked up. Just turn the other way.
Just head for cover.
But in these scenes, once he's kind of gone over the deep end, his collar becomes, it's still up, but it's slanted halfway down. And it's always kind of like visually there in the middle of it's always kind of prominent, usually.
There needs to be like a rhyme like that, like, red light, sailor delight, or whatever it is, except for Gosling's collar.
Collar's up, it's all fucked up.
Half popped, watch your cock. No, kind of a slant rhyme.
No.
I'm working on it, give me time. That is a detail I have never actually noticed in the film, though.
It's like he's got a very distinct silhouette to him. Like, you could almost, if you put the character entirely in shadow, you could still recognize him.
Well, that jacket is puffy.
This is a nice jacket.
It looks warm, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It looks cozy.
I want one.
I could sleep in that thing.
Yeah.
You think if you walked into a store and was like, give me the most 80s jacket you have, they just produce that?
The weird thing is his other outfit is denim, which is even stranger.
It's almost like he does have a secret identity when he puts on that thing.
Mild-mannered
Gosling.
Mild-mannered Gosling. Works at a garage by day.
He puts on the jacket and becomes Drive.
Driver becomes Drive at night.
But I also like how, when he's working as a mechanic, he clearly has a name tag, but you never see it. Like, they just go as far as they can to make sure that he's just entirely a blank slate.
I'd like to talk about the last scene.
Okay. What do you got to say
That's
about the last scene?
About all that's left.
Yeah. Well, I like how Rimph decided to edit it together. Between
I like how we've gotten more formal or less formal with this guy as the night's gone on. It started off with the full Nicholas whining Refn, and now it's just Refn.
Nicky Ref.
Me and Ref.
I can just call him Nick.
Yo, Nicky. Sorry, what was your point?
Yo, Nick, let's rap.
That's the movie.
This is
the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, the movie.
It's beautifully shot. Really gets into the pathos of Carlton.
Uncle Phil doesn't say 2 words.
Do we have a movie called The Pathos of Carlton?
Why is Jazz in my head played by Ryan Gosling?
I'm just imagining Uncle Phil going up to Jazz and just cutting his wrists open.
It's okay. It's over now.
Okay. Done.
He still throws him out the door. Ah!
Michael Cranston is Hillary.
Oh, gosh. So, what were you saying about the last scene?
I love how Nikki decides to edit that scene together.
If you can call him Nicky, I'm going to keep calling Gosling Drive.
Drivey.
This isn't a contest, Flex Up.
It's not?
It kind of is.
I'm afraid you lose.
Hand it out. Potato chips. But, once Bernie stabs Driver, he keeps coming back and forth between the conversation and them going to the car. And then all of a sudden, obviously Driver was expecting this. He was completely expecting to die at this point. I mean, he blatantly brought up the Scorpion the Frog, so that's what it was in his mind anyway. But he immediately, unsheaths a knife from his jacket sleeve. Oh, he's fully prepared for this. And that's when it cuts back to, Driver just smiling at Bernie, then Bernie's just smiling back, and they just keep stabbing each other. And, you're just mostly in shadow, so you don't know, who's on the ground at this point and who's up. Until Driver, goes to the car, sits in. And there's kind of setup throughout this movie between Driver and Benicio, the kid. They keep playing the staring game.
Yeah.
And the cool way that it plays off at the end, where Driver gets in the car and just kind of stares off into nothingness. And the camera just holds on him for such an uncomfortable period of time.
You think he's dead?
Yeah, you're just... And it plays with how you watch these kind of scenes in movies where you... Even if you know a character's dead, you're always looking at him to see, okay, is he going to twitch or something? Is he actually still alive? And the camera just holds on him, so you're just staring at him, not wanting to miss a single thing, because you probably expect it to just cut to black or something, until finally he just blinks. And you slowly in the background you hear a real hero come up, and he closes the door and drives off.
It just becomes a music video.
I'm sorry. I was trying to pay attention, but who are we talking about?
Driver, Flexo.
Who is that? Oh, you mean Drive. Right, okay.
Gossie D, okay?
Oh, Gossie. Gotcha.
I was talking about
Why didn't you just say?
He was talking about Ref.
The Ref.
I'm not going to make any good points anymore, Flexo. Fuck you.
That's fine. We're almost at the end of the podcast anyways.
Who's going to bring the poetic Gosling into this?
My God.
That was my thoughts on the final scene.
He actually just wrote a haiku about Ryan Gosling.
But yeah, I never thought of the connection between that and the staring scenes earlier in the movie. That is a fascinating parallel.
That's a pretty heavy relationship, too, just him and the kid. Their small little interactions.
Well, it seems like he really takes the kid more so than, even his interactions with Shannon. He nods and all that. But with the kid, he's always kind of smiling. He seems like he's in a good mood. The kid seems as important to him as Irene. There's something in that kid he sees that makes him happy.
Yeah, Irene's almost more of a mother figure than she really is a love interest in some respects.
It's probably the innocence that he kind of takes, too. Nothing really gray about it.
That and the fact he can give him toothpicks and be like, hey, look, I'm a cool guy.
Well, I just love that scene where the kid comes up and he's wearing a jack-o'-lantern mask, and there's this beat, and he just says, scary, and then he just offers him a toothpick.
So is his jacket just filled with toothpicks and knives?
Yes.
And baseball caps?
Well, he's like Batman.
Nothing in his pockets but knives and lint.
And he also has the glove, so he can give the finger of doom.
I still love his first interaction too with Albert Brooks' character, where he just kind of stares at him for the longest time, and he finally just says, "My hands are a little dirty."
Best line in the movie, by the way.
And then he still refuses to shake Shannon's hand.
They've known each other longer.
Yeah.
So genius.
Why do you treat your friends like this, Albert Brooks?
I don't want to be friends with Albert Brooks now. I'm scared.
Plus, he's such a fantastic actor. You probably just feel like a schmo around him all the time. He'd be really funny, and you'd just be like, well, I liked Finding Nemo. I watched that movie you were great in.
Albert Brooks just shakes Refn's hand. He just says, that's the movie.
Then Refn just takes out a knife and just slashes him across the... It's okay. It's just a movie. It's done now. It's okay.
Stabs him in the eye with a fork.
My dreams, my fantasies.
All will coalesce.
He stabs himself. This is the movie. I am the movie.
He's just bathing in blood. This is all the movie.
Then he becomes a sun god.
All will be the movie.
Anyway, I do have one thing.
All right, what do you got?
I would like to read a passage from the Poetic Edda.
You son of a bitch. All right, go ahead.
All right. Who drove thee on? Who wert thou driven? My life to make me lose. I'm just kidding.
Thank God.
That is actual passage from the Poetic Edda, but I looked for like 3 hours to find something that could slightly fit.
I was hoping you would go on for so long with that.
I thought about it, but I didn't want to bore you. I tried to find something that would fit. There's a great part of the Poetic Edda about Loki crashing a party just to insult everyone there.
Refn's just reading the Poetic Edda. This is the movie! He makes Thor.
Wonder Woman never gets made.
There's no movie there.
Anyway, what else you got? You bitches got?
The frogs are getting louder, so you probably shouldn't go for too much longer.
The frogs are saying they're done.
You have had your time.
The age of frog has begun.
No. Except the fact we could do a 3-hour episode on Drive. There's so many layers to it we could talk about.
Yeah.
Box Office Pulp recommends watching Drive compulsively.
It's on Netflix. And you can find it in a $5 bin at this point.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Walmart has it in the Blu-ray bin for $7.88.
And there will never be a sequel.
Probably not.
There was supposed to be, but I think it was like May or March or something where Refn just said there isn't going to be one now.
Yeah, he had a quote not too long ago where he said, look, they don't have me, they don't have Gosling, they can't do the movie without both of us. So
it was weird because they were both saying they wanted to do one at one point.
Yeah, I don't understand it. I'm not going to argue with the guy, I guess. He might start trying and stab me.
He could kill you.
Yeah.
This is my movie.
He's going to hear this podcast and track us down now. That'll be his movie.
He films the whole thing. Oh!
It's found footage.
Oh, could you imagine Refn doing a found footage movie? It's the most beautiful thing ever.
His vacation videos are probably great. For some reason, they have narrative in them.
It's just him crying a lot.
Somehow it's a coming-of-age story.
The Grand Canyon, it's just so beautiful. It's the movie. That's the movie.
I think half of this, of us analyzing Drive has just been us making fun of Nicholas Winding Refn.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's how it should be.
We should punish him for making such good movies.
So does anyone have the feeling that he actually secretly filmed In the Mouth of Madness, and that ending was just him trying to confess?
It's possible.
His favorite color is blue.
This is the movie!
Oh, sorry.
Alright, well, I think that's going to be it for tonight, folks. We're going to wrap this up.
Come on, Hero, you don't have anything else?
Nothing? Come on.
Come on, Hero. I'm sure you got something else to talk about with this movie.
Somebody say something about the scorpion jacket.
We can do our
real
episode.
Human being, a real hero.
No. I'm cutting you off.
You can't say no to Real Hero.
I did. Bam!
Ooh,
Yeah.
snap.
Box Office Pulp, no more.
I think of Drive, I just think of Alec Baldwin in the shadow saying, Drive. I don't know why.
He's calling for help. To me, Drive! To me!
Oh, God.
I'm gonna stop making that joke, folks. We're gonna wrap this up so you don't have to bear any more of it. If you've enjoyed this podcast, you can find more of us at boxofficepulp.blogspot.com, iTunes, or our Facebook page. You can hear more from Mike and MB in their podcast, Pulp Nightmare. And James also has Below the Bible Belt.
Get out of my office.
Yeah.
What's always out of it tonight?
I don't know what to make of that. Do you know what to make of that?
Listen, just pretend like we're all just driving in slow motion throughout down nighttime streets after being stabbed in the chest. On to further adventures.
It's more in the gut.
Whatever. Semantics here.
In the torso. Got stabbed in the torso.
As long as we all have messed up colors, it's fine.
As long as we all have found the scorpion jacket inside of us.
And the perfect hair.
That was beautiful.
Thank you. Now I think we should all give into our nature and end this fucking podcast.
Alright, well thanks for your time. Have a good evening. That's a wrap.
And like that, he's gone.